In our main story this morning, the BBC reports that after Brexit, the UK wants to boost business trade with Africa. A major UK-Africa business summit is being held in London. The question is, will there be new opportunities for the continent? Once the UK leaves the European Union at the end of January, it has 11 months to come up with a trade deal with the European Union to avoid reverting to WTO rules. The UK's International Development Secretary, Alok Sharma, is, as one would expect, very optimistic, saying that Britain's relations with Africa will be turbocharged. The UK-Africa Investment Summit can be seen as evidence of that, but any potential change in actual trade conditions is some way off, possibly years. The UK will still be a member of the EU Customs Union and Single Market until the end of the year. That means trade relations between the UK and Africa stay the same for 2020, conducted under the EU's various existing deals with the continent. Beyond the 2020 horizon, trade arrangements between many African countries and a fully Brexited UK are also set to remain the same under a number of continuity agreements. These basically say that the trade conditions, that's tariffs, quotas, standards and so on, remain the same as they are currently between a number of African countries and trading blocs and the EU. For example, in September last year, the UK initiated an economic partnership agreement with the Southern African Customs Union, SACU, which is made up of South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho and Eswatini, and Mozambique. It is designed to keep things as they are under the current trade relationship that the Southern African nations have with the EU. It mirrors the agreement that the EU already has with SACU. Worldwide, the UK has in place about 40 such continuity deals, covering some 70 countries. The continuity agreements will eventually run out. That's when the real opportunities and challenges for African states will emerge. That could mean that the African countries that trade with the UK may be able to, perhaps, squeeze out slightly more preferential terms in negotiations. The lion's share of the UK's effort will be aimed at getting the best deal possible with the EU, its closest and by far its biggest trading partner. Beyond that, deals with the likes of the US, China, South Korea and Australia will be prioritised, which means that African countries will be quite far down the list. South Africa is the sub-Saharan African country that does the most trade with the European Union. Minerals, cars and agricultural products are exported into the EU, and of that total, 18% end up in the UK. Uncertainty remains a factor, despite the efforts being made to counter it. If the UK falls into a recession after Brexit, that would hit places like South Africa hard. And given South Africa's powerhouse status as regards other African economies, that would not bode well. What about Kenya's flour growers? Well, flowers are one of Kenya's biggest exports and foreign currency earners. The industry is also a major employer, providing 100,000 people with direct work and around 2 million indirectly. At the moment, Kenya's flowers enter the EU through the massive market in Amsterdam. From there, 18% of them end up in the UK. But what happens after Brexit? There could be an impact. As far as African companies are concerned, the post-Brexit world will depend very much on the nature of their business with both the EU and the UK. As African politicians and business leaders gathered in London for the UK-Africa Investment Summit, uncertainty remains. Uncertainty is the enemy of investment.